Hey, it's your boy Easy, and on today's episode of Easy Opens, we're going to be taking a look at the SH Figuarts Shinkocchou Seihou Kamen Rider Skull action figure. So let's go ahead and get this figure free from its really awesome iPhone case kind of prison, and take a look and see what we think about Kamen Rider Skull. Alright, so here's Kamen Rider Skull fresh out the box with all of his accessories. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this character, he comes from the 2009 series of Kamen Rider called Kamen Rider Double. And it's a really awesome series of the show, and highly recommended for people who have no prior knowledge or introduction or any info about Kamen Rider. It's a good jumping on point, and I highly recommend it. It's basically a kind of noir detective kind of take on the whole Kamen Rider theme, and it's done really well, and it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, this character does not appear too often in the show, but is a very important character and has a really badass costume. But we'll get more into that later. But first, let's go back to the accessories. So this figure comes with a ton of accessories. He comes with 5 sets of hands, 1 double driver, which is the driver that Kamen Rider Double uses, 1 briefcase, 1 Gaia memory, which is his skull memory, 2 scarves, 1 gun, which is his skull magnum, 2 hats, and 2 heads. One of them is kind of crystal-like and transparent, and it's missing the crack on the skull. And when you have that when you have that head on the character, that version is referred to as Kamen Rider Skull, or Kamen Rider Crystal Skull, I believe. I actually prefer the skull with the crack in it over the crystal skull, just because I think it looks cooler, in my opinion. But it's really awesome that Figuarts decided to give us both in one package, as opposed to how they've done in the past, where they re-released this figure in 2 separate versions. One is crystal and one is regular, and with this 3rd version they decided to combine the 2, which is really rad, and now we don't have to buy 2. Having said that, this is again the 3rd version of this character that Figuarts has released, and so let's go ahead and take a look at how he measures up to not only the previous version of this character, but some other characters you might have in your collection. Now here he is with the SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Skull first release of this character, and as you can tell, it is a much needed improvement over the previous version. The Shinkocchou Seihou line has been amazing, and the whole premise behind the line is that they are trying to make the figures look more like guys in suits as opposed to just toys. And as evident here, again, they've knocked it out of the park and made a superior version to what was already a really cool figure, but looks a little dated and shows its age a little bit. Now here he is with the original release of Kamen Rider Double, and as you can tell, again, this figure looks so much better with the Shinkocchou Seihou aesthetic that they have going. And yeah, I just wanted to throw this one in here to show you how they would compare if you had one and didn't have the other, and was trying to see if they would match up, because yeah, they kind of pale in comparison to one another. Alright, so let's take a look at some other figures you might have in your collection and how they measure up to Kamen Rider Skull. Now, I might not have mentioned this a minute ago, but Kamen Rider Skull stands at about 6 inches tall with his hat on. So but overall he is in a 1/12 scale line of figures. So having said that, here he is next to the NECA Raphael and the Storm Collectibles Sub-Zero figures. Here he is next to the Figma Gilgamesh figure and the Marvel Select Rhino figure. Here he is next to the Bandai Legacy Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Yellow figure, and here he is next to Marvel Legends Ghost Rider figure. And just to be thorough, here's a shot of him with the Shinkocchou Seihou Kamen Rider XL figure and Shinkocchou Seihou Kamen Rider Double figure, and these look fantastic, especially together. Alright, so let's talk about the paint and sculpt on this figure. Now, again, this is a marked improvement over the original releases that Bandai or Figuarts has done in the past, and they killed it with this one. This figure is essentially a repaint of Kamen Rider Double with a little bit of tweaks here and there. It's basically the same costume, except it's painted black, a flat black, and has some silver on it in the chest and the arm, the wrist and the ankles, and on the shoulder pads as well. And so there's not a lot of paint here because most everything is cast in the flat black color, which looks super sleek. And then he also has the weird kind of design that almost looks Venom-esque on his chest. I don't know, there's just something so sleek and simple and like sexy about this character and this character design. I don't know, maybe that's weird, but the addition of the scarf, and that's one of the things I've always loved about Rider, is his scarf, and I hate that some of the writers move away from the scarf. It's kind of like sad that later in some of the series past this they move away from it, but I've always loved the scarf aspect to Rider, and the scarf that comes with Skull is ridiculously detailed. It's got so much just detail in it. It looks way better than the previous versions, and I actually prefer it over Doubles, even though they are supposed to be aesthetically different. Skull's scarf looks a lot more ragged and tattered and dirty, and it just, I don't know, it's just so rad. I love it so much. And the fact that he's wearing I think this is a fedora, I'm not really too sure, but his hat is awesome. I love this hat and the look of this character. I don't know, he's one of my top 5 favorite Kamen Rider suits of all time, and it's just, there's something so simple and profound about it that I can't get over it, and it's fantastic. If you are familiar with Figuarts, again, they are usually spot on with their paint and just deco and just articulation and detail and the sculpt and everything, and they killed it with this one. The Shinkocchou Seihou line is one of my favorite toy lines to collect, not only because the box is really cool, it looks kind of like, and feels kind of like an iPod box, which is really neat. The figures are just amazing, one after the other, and it's kind of annoying that they're re-releasing a lot of figures. Now granted, this figure needed a re-release because it just was too old and just did not measure up to what they were doing now in the regular line, but let me rephrase. My wallet hates that I have to rebuy these figures, but they are well worth it, and this is really awesome. But yeah, I have no complaints on this figure as far as paint and sculpt. He looks fantastic. He looks like a guy in a suit and looks like he just walked right off the screen. So there you go. So let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation that you're going to get out of this figure. Alright, so let's take a look at the articulation you're going to get out of SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Skull. So starting with, well, his skull. His head is on a 360 rotation, and his head also comes off, so you can see how it moves. And you can get side to side, up to down, left to right. And if I can put this back on easily, there we go. His head can look up this far and can look down that far. His arms are articulated at the shoulder with a 360 rotation, and you do have these shoulder pads that can move and articulate to get out of the way. If they pop off, I've found that if you take the mechanism, I don't know if you can see it in there, but there's a little ball joint in there that is on a hinge. If you take that off, instead of keeping it on the actual shoulder pad, trying to get it back in, it's easier to take it off and then put the shoulder pad back on, as opposed to having the whole thing connected and putting it back on. But, you know, just that's my experience. Anyway, moving on. He does have bicep swivel, so you get 360 rotation at the bicep. He does have double jointed elbows, and he has 360 rotation at the wrist. His legs can go out this far. They can go forward. Let's see. They can go forward that far, and they can go back quite a bit that far. He does have a thigh swivel, so you
can get some use out of that. And double jointed knees, as well as ankle articulation. So you get 360 rotation at the ankle, usually. I don't know, mine doesn't want to turn right now, but it was turning a little bit ago. And it does have ankle pivots, so side to side, front to back. And he does have some toe articulation as well. Now, he does have 360 rotation at the waist. Let's see if I can get that in view. And if I can get his belt to get even again. There we go. And yeah, so also his belt does go up and down. I don't know if you can see that very well, but yeah, up and down. And then he does have some ab crunch articulation, so he can go forward quite a bit, and he can go back a little ways. I don't know if that's a very good shot of that. But and lastly, his his scarf is articulated as well, so it plugs in to a little hole on the back of his neck, and I guess it's his back, not really his neck, but yeah, and you can rotate it, flip it up, flip it back, side to side, up and down, left and right, so a lot of range of motion in the scarf. And then there you go. That is all the articulation you're going to get out of SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Skull.
Alright, so final thoughts on the Shinkocchou Seihou SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Skull figure. This figure is fantastic. Now, if you're familiar with SH Figuarts, especially their Shinkocchou Seihou line, this isn't going to blow you away because they've already set the bar so high, and this is on par with everything they've released since Hibiki. It's just as good, but there's not a lot of dynamics to the figure in regards to, like, you know, design, but that, again, that's by design. This figure is supposed to be sleek and simple and sharp, and really the only dynamics to this character are his hat and his scarf, and those stand out like really well on this figure and really make a mark with it. But having said that, though, if you're not familiar with Figuarts and you pick this figure up just because he looks cool, you're going to be blown away, because this line, the Shinkocchou Seihou line, is fantastic, and this figure is right up there with the rest of them. Now, again, as I might have mentioned earlier, if you're buying this character or this figure to go with the previously released first run of Kamen Rider Double and Excel and the other characters from that line that are not the Shinkocchou Seihou line, you're probably going to be disappointed with how he blows them away. That he looks a million times better than the previous versions. The previous versions look like toys. This looks like almost, I don't know, I might go on a limb and say like a Hot Toys level figure just shrunk down, because the whole goal of the Shinkocchou Seihou line is to make make a figure look like the guy is in the suit, and they killed it with this one. Everything from the accessories are on point, and the detail in the driver, all of it's fantastic. Again, everything about this character is amazing, and Figuarts again has knocked it out of the park with another flawless version of a character from one of my favorite series ever. And so I highly recommend this figure, especially if you don't have any of the other Kamen Rider Skull figures. Definitely pick this one up, but it will make you like the rest of the Shinkocchou Seihou line. And if I say that one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. They will make you want to rebuy all of your old Kamen Rider figures if you've been buying them since the beginning, since they started, I should say. And so beware of that. But again, this figure is on par with all of them, and it is fantastic. Highly recommended, and definitely check it out, and check out the show Kamen Rider Double if you haven't, because it's well worth your time. Alright, well, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button for me, and if you want to see more of me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. And if for some weird reason you want to hear more of me and my voice, you can do that by checking out my other podcast, where we have Turtle Soup, where a friend and I talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles every other week, all the way from the beginning. And I believe right now we're in 1993 covering the comics and stuff, so it's a lot of fun. And if you want to hear even more of me, you can check me out on my other show, Daydream Nation, where a friend and I talk about a different record every other week. So there you go. Thanks again so much for watching, and be sure to check back here often for more opening goodness right here on Easy Opens. Else time.